everyone, it's so good to see all of you lovely people once again. I'm your host Manav Sinha, and today I've had a fantastic day. That's because, as you would have guessed it, I have spent the day riding the Royal Enfield Classic 650. Now, pretty much everything you need to know about the motorcycle is out there in this wonderful world called the internet, because this motorcycle first made its debut at EICMA last year, made its India debut at Motorverse last year, but today we have finally ridden it, and we're going to talk about the things that are not so much talked about and there's not a lot of information about it, which is how is the motorcycle to ride, what are the prices for this machine, and is that price something that you should pay to bring one of these home. Without any further ado, let's get started. But I have to start off by asking you to consider subscribing to the autoX YouTube channel. You see, we put in a lot of effort to bring all of these stuff to you, and your appreciation really makes our day. So if you like the video, make sure you subscribe to autoX for our future uploads, click the bell notification icon, and share this with your friends so you can tell them what this motorcycle is all about. Now, I want to kick things off with my first impression, because this is the first time I've seen the motorcycle in the flesh. I missed it at Motorverse last year, and I have seen this motorcycle countless times in pictures and videos because I love the Classic 350, and it's really important you keep that in mind because that's where I'm coming from and so are my opinions. So having said all of that, the first time when I saw this motorcycle, I went, wow, that looks gorgeous, it looks regal, it looks magnificent, it has a stance to it, and just the way this motorcycle sits, it commands respect, and that is something a lot of Royal Enfield enthusiasts will love. You see, this motorcycle comes in several color options. You get these really distinctive blue and red color options with the new Classic 650, which you can also get in the teal color option as well, which I personally find really interesting because even things like the frame and the stand are finished in teal. And then of course you have the dark chrome version, which is what we rode today. So talking about design, the silhouette of the motorcycle is pretty much similar to the Classic 350. They've not changed a lot of things, but it's everything just zoomed in to about 125%. That should give you an idea of just how big and massive this motorcycle is, even with a familiar shape. So people who've liked the new Classic 350, the older Classic 500s, and basically classic and bullet enthusiasts, they will like how this motorcycle looks like. Let's take a closer look at the design elements. Let's start with the stance of the motorcycle. The frame is same to the Shotgun 650, but the stance is a lot different. That's because you've got a 19-inch wheel at the front and an 18-inch wheel at the back, and that gives this a bit of a laid-back attitude about the motorcycle. One of the things I really like is that even the hub of the wheel is finished in chrome. How cool is that? Again, you've got this nice metal finish to the end of the fork, just like other classic motorcycles. I really like that. And even the headlamp has that nacelle, that important touch to the headlamp that all classic enthusiasts will like. It's also got these tiger lamps, like the Bullet, but the good thing is, this time they have LED treatment to it, so that's really interesting. Speaking of LEDs, the headlamp is also the LED unit, and so is the tail lamp. But I have to say, this particular headlamp unit has not been the best in our experience, because at night you do end up wanting a bit more luminosity from this cluster. However, the indicators though are still old-fashioned, and I really like that as well. Coming to the side, well, of course you've got this same familiar looking fuel tank, and you've got a lot of finished chrome and polishing and reflective surfaces on the motorcycle. Now, if you're someone who likes to come back from a ride and clean your motorcycle, well, you're going to have a field day with this because there's just so much to maintain. A special mention has to be made about the rear section of the motorcycle. I know it looks really nice right now, but if you were to buy this from the showroom, what you would get here is a rear seat. You can see on the shot how that's going to look like, but I have to make a special mention in this regard, because if you have to dismount the seat, you pretty much have to take the subframe out, and for that you have to fiddle around with the mounting points of the rear suspension, and that is something that I'm just not comfortable doing. You can do that, but doing that is still a cumbersome process. If you happen to do it though, you'll get the single seater look, and I really like that. At the back, the most prominent tell that you're riding a classic 650 and not a 350 are these dual pea-shooter style exhausts finished in lavish chrome. These are the most prominent tell, and what I really like is they're not sticking out as much as, say, the Interceptor 650. Moving on, you've got these dual shocks at the back from Showa with about 90 millimeters of wheel travel, and at the front you've got these 43 millimeter right side up telescopic forks with about 120 millimeters of wheel travel. Powering it is the 648cc twin-cylinder engine, which comes with a 6-speed transmission, but we'll get to the riding dynamics in a bit. What I want to talk about right now is sitting on the motorcycle. For reference, I'm 5'11", and you can see that I sit with almost flat foot on the ground. The reason for that though is that even though it still has only a 800 millimeter seat height, the width of the motorcycle between your legs is quite a lot. So you end up sitting a little spread out, but this is a posture that a lot of people will like, because on the motorcycle you've got this leverage on the bike. You sit open-chested upright, and it gives you that dominant feel while on the road. One of the things I want to show you though is my point of view to the motorcycle. If you were to see from here, you would see that I have this massive piece of machinery over here. This is where the instrument cluster is, and of course the shape is the same to the classic 350. What you get is a semi-digital instrument cluster, and you also get tripper navigation as standard on the motorcycle, so all variants get it. But just the size of this is fantastic, and even the 14.7 liter fuel tank is also quite big. So all in all, immediately you get the impression that you're seated on a very, very big motorcycle. What I also like is this chunky triple clamp over here. Looks really premium. And speaking of premium, even the switch cluster, the throttle body, all of it looks really high quality, has fantastic feel. You do get these rotary style switches though, which I'm not a big fan of, but it is what it is. Overall, it feels very premium. However, what happens when you have to get off the motorcycle? Well, you have to remember that this motorcycle weighs 243 kgs curb. In simple words, with fuel, about 90% fuel and oil. So it's a heavy motorcycle. So if you have to reverse it, for example, it does take a little bit of effort. Although the motorcycle does come with a double stand as well. And as you will find out, there's nothing really to grab onto at the back because the seat and all has been removed. However, if you put in the effort, you can obviously put it up on the double stand, but it does take a little bit of work. So if you're someone who's not sure about the weight of the motorcycle, make sure you visit the dealership and do this practice to find out if you can really maneuver this motorcycle in tight spaces, and if parking it alone is going to be easy for you or not. Hello. Hi. Well, these guys obviously are interested in the motorcycle, and I'm sure you are interested. Hey, hello, welcome back. Aren't they cute? Ducky ducks. Anyway, coming back to the motorcycle, let's talk about the big question. How is the motorcycle to ride? Well, we are here in Coonoor in this lovely valley filled with tea estates, and we had a really interesting choice of route to ride this motorcycle on. You see, the Royal Enfield folks selected some of the most enjoyable twisties that you can find on mountain roads, with pretty decent roads as well. So that would make great riding experience for a sporty motorcycle, but for a motorcycle of this format, well, it ended up being a little bit cumbersome. Our total distance was just about 60 kilometers or so, but at the end of it, there were just so many turns, left, right, left, right. At one point, I just wanted to relax and enjoy this motorcycle, which is something I guess I will have to do once I get the bike back in our base and test it out thoroughly. What surprised me the most though are the mirrors. This time around, they were not vibrating as bad as I remember Royal Enfield mirrors to vibrate. They stayed in their place, and this is honestly the first time this has happened to me on a Royal Enfield, a modern Royal Enfield motorcycle. The other thing that left me wanting a little bit more though was the seat. Yes, this is the single seat unit. I sat on it for about an hour and a half or so. That was the duration of our ride, and by the end of it, I felt like taking a break. It could be because just how challenging the terrain was, just how many turns we were doing, but overall I just felt a bit tired and I wanted to get off and rest my bum a little bit. Interestingly, Royal Enfield will give you a touring seat option as well, and that is something I think you will have to opt for if you're planning to buy this motorcycle and take it out for long rides. And since we're talking about things we didn't like, well, I have to mention these levers. They are chonky. So the amount of effort that goes into modulating the clutch or the front brake lever is actually quite a lot, even though they are adjustable, which is a nice touch, to be honest. But as a result, the feel of the brake is not as much as I would have liked, although the bite is not a problem. At the back though, the bite situation is a little different because the rear brake has a lot of bite. The ABS is really happy to kick in at a moment's notice. So I'm guessing with a pillion on and maybe with some luggage, the rear brake feel would be a little bit better. Talking of brakes, here's a quick side note. As you would see, you get RE branded calipers now. And while these are still bi-brake units, this is the first time RE is branding their calipers. Now, these are perhaps the only things that I didn't like, and that's saying a lot because usually I'm a very complacent boy, but that's just how good the machine is, because in every other parameter, the Classic 650 far exceeded my expectations, starting with the management of the weight. You see, despite weighing almost 250 kgs, on the move, the motorcycle is agile, it's flickable, there's a lot of feel from the front end. You can really push this motorcycle and have a fantastic time too. Yes, if you happen to push it quite a bit, the foot pegs will grace the road, but still, the cornering clearance is much more than I anticipated in a format of this motorcycle. Talking about the drivetrain, well, this has been the star of all 650cc motorcycles from Royal Enfield, and it continues to do so in this story as well. It's refined, it's smooth, torque delivery is on point, you can be in any gear, you won't really stall the engine. It's a wonderful experience. The transmission works great, you don't really miss any shifts. All in all, it's a very enjoyable drivetrain, and in this format, it works fantastic as well. But as is the case with most of the 650s from Royal Enfield, the big question is just how stiff the rear suspension is. And this time around, it's still on the stiffer side, although it's much better than the Super Meteor 650. I mean, anything's better than the Super Meteor 650, but it's also better than the Shotgun 650 as well. And I would go as far as to say it's one of the most comfortable 650cc motorcycles from Royal Enfield, and that's saying quite a lot. And when you wrap all of this up in this design, in this appearance, in this size form factor, I would say this becomes the most attractive big motorcycle from Royal Enfield in the country right now. So if you're planning to bring one home, the only question that remains is how much do you have to pay for it? Well, 3.37 lakh rupees is the price for the red and blue color options. 3.41 lakh rupees is the price for the teal color option and 3.5 lakh rupees for the black chrome variant, the one that we rode today. All of these prices are ex-showroom, of course. So essentially, this is landing up just under 4 lakh rupees in that price bracket on road. And I would say, when you consider the price, this is a lot of motorcycle for that money. The more time I spent with it today, we finished our ride. I still went out to give those tracking shots, those passing shots that you're seeing on your screen. The more I liked it. And I think that is a very essential element for a motorcycle with the name Classic in it. Because the Classic 350, remember I mentioned I'm a big fan, was a motorcycle that made you want to get back on the bike, made you want to explore, take in the surroundings at a serene pace, relax, enjoy the ride. That was what the Classic 350 was. And the more time I spend with this, that is what the Classic 650 manages to do that as well. And for me, that's a very promising start. It's not the full picture though, because the route that we rode on, it was not where I would want to test this motorcycle. So our final verdict is still out there in the open. Although the first impressions are fantastic. But of course, we cannot wrap up our first ride impressions of the Classic 650 without talking about the exhaust note. So let's quickly get that out of the way as well. This is how the bike sounds like at idle. And a little bit of revs.